All right, here we go. We call it the three-word game. And it is, we think we can describe every draft pick, the top ones, the candidates, in 3 words. Here we go. Joe Burrow, obvious number 1. He's from Ohio, college player of the year. They need a quarterback. And frankly, most of the NFL people you talk to, since Tua is hurt, he's their top candidate. I think he's a Tony Romo. He's a B-plus prospect. Most people think he's an A. We'll see. I do think he's entering the toughest division in football now. I don't think there's 3 teams at the top of any division that have as much pure defensive talent as the Ravens, Browns, and Steelers. Good luck to Joe Burrow. Tua, he's not falling. Come on. Patrick Mahomes, hurt in college. Drew Brees, Miami passed on him, hurt. How did it work? Carson Wentz, hurt. You can't give me Sam Bradford and say you can't draft a quarterback that gets hurt. Sam Bradford was just not going to be as good as a Carson Wentz. The reality is this league, even quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, are dealing with injuries on a monthly and seasonal basis. Tua is a great prospect, and I don't think he's falling out of the top 10. Justin Herbert bolts to third. Wordplay, bolts, Chargers. My guess is, and I don't have information because Tom Telesco doesn't ever leak anything. That's their quarterback. They're going to move up. I think his limitations are coachable and correctable, and his strengths are God-given: size, arm, accuracy on big throws. Justin Herbert bolts to third. Jordan Love on the rise. I do not, unlike Trent Dilfer, think he falls to the second round. 10 of the last 15 first-round quarterbacks, people have moved up to get him. I think there are too many traits that are A. Arm, escapability, release. In his sophomore year, when he had a very good coach, he was absolutely terrific. I think you can point to his coaches last year and say that's some of the issues. The system didn't work for him. Jalen Hurts. Watch the Ravens. The Ravens have 2 picks in the second round, 2 picks in the third, 2 picks in the fourth. He's got a style similar to Lamar Jackson. If a quarterback moves, you got to get a backup, and you got to get a backup that plays the same style. The Ravens are the kind of franchise, they don't have a lot of openings. I mean, they really don't. Their O-line's good. Their D-line's good. Their secondary's sick. They appear to have receivers. They're loaded at tight end. They don't have a lot of openings and a lot of picks. Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin, my favorite back. First of all, he's a track guy who has transitioned really well. The 6th most rushing yards in NCAA history. You know, it's funny. I've said he is the most talented running back since Saquon Barkley in the conference. And I think if there's 3 running backs in the Big Ten in the last decade, you're like home run. It's Zeke, Saquon Barkley, and Jonathan Taylor. I think he is a burner and a home run guy who you can also count on in short yard situations. Jerry Jeudy, best receiver easily. I don't get the argument. I think he's unbelievable. I think he's one of the best first-round wide receiver talents, and most of them last year weren't as good as you thought. He won the Biletnikoff as a sophomore. He is an all-time talent. I think he'll succeed regardless of where he goes. CeeDee Lamb, little bit overrated. It's hard to judge. Everybody's like, oh, he's great after the catch. Yeah, when you play Texas Tech, everybody is. Jerry Jeudy made SEC defenses look outclassed. CeeDee Lamb made Big 12 defenses look outclassed. There is a clear and definitive difference. Like him, but I don't see him as in the same class as Jerry Jeudy. Henry Ruggs III. Depends on the situation. You send him to a strong-arm quarterback, a Carson Wentz. You send him to, a Green Bay, a guy that throws a great deep ball, home run. But I can also see him as a really fast guy with not a deep route tree that if he goes to a quarterback who's not particularly deft at going over the top, he's just going to be a really fast guy that makes, is Sammy Watkins-ish, which is talented, but is not a game changer. Michael Pittman Jr., sleeper of the draft. Now, I'm not saying he's as talented as Henry Ruggs, but when people say third-round pick for Michael Pittman Jr. at USC, they're out of their minds. And you're noticing all sorts of articles, Joy, pop up in the last 2 weeks. Everybody's like, oh, the more we film, we look at. So I live in L.A. I watched Michael Pittman as a freshman walk onto USC, true freshman, and he was their best special teams player. He's really tough. His dad played in the NFL, and his dad was tough. He's physical. He's hard to tackle. I watched him at a handful of practices. He does not look like a wide receiver body. He looks like a thin tight end. Hard to bring down, hard worker. I don't think USC's had the best coaching last 4 or 5 years. He got better every year despite that. So I think he's a sleeper. Tristan Wirfs, my guess, Browns. Browns need tackles. He's terrific. He's a monster. He is a pancake guy. Now, he may be a better guard, some say, long-term than a tackle, but he'll start at tackle. And if Cleveland gets him, and if you start looking where guys come down to, I don't think he'll be available for the Jets. I think the Jets would take him, but the Browns pick one pick ahead of them, and I think they'll take him. Isaiah Simmons, best pure athlete. You know, he reminds me a little bit of Shaq Thompson a couple years ago out of Washington, where you can just put him, I mean, you could put Isaiah Simmons anywhere. And everybody's like, well, what position does he play? Well, I don't know. Clemson coaches figured it out. He plays defense and makes a bunch of tackles. Go watch Clemson last 2 years. He's everywhere. 100 tackles, 8 sacks, 3 picks in a season. That's the best college year since Khalil Mack. I just think he's unbelievable. If I was running the New York Giants and couldn't trade down, with my 2 defensive tackles, I'd solve my linebacker issue with Isaiah Simmons, and I'd get a tackle later in the draft. I think he's just a monster physically. Jeff Okudah, Buckeyes do corners. Listen, Ohio State has put, since 1999, they put 10 corners in the first round of the NFL draft. This is what they do. Most pan out in the NFL. He did not commit a penalty last year at Ohio State. And what does that mean? He's disciplined and great. So he's one of those guys that it's typical Ohio State. They do corners, put him in, he'll be a stud. Chase Young, can't miss talent. Look at every draft has like 2 or 3 guys. There's not as many as you think. GMs have told me for years, the first round generally has 17 guys who you're really comfortable paying as first round talent. After that, from the middle of the first to the top of the third, it's guys with limitations. This guy doesn't have a lot of limitations for the position he plays. He'll come in, he'll start, he'll be, within 6 or 7 games, get acclimated. Now, I do think rookies are going to have a tougher year because of obvious reasons, the virus, you miss OTAs. But somebody's going to get him. If Washington gets him, with Ron Rivera, a defensive coach, and already they have pretty good defensive line personnel, Washington is going to be a handful. Redskins going to be a handful to block in the upcoming years. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.